Family, welcome back to the channel, and it's back on the desk again, the Sharp VZ-3000. Now we need to look at the lights on here. Well, one of the lights, the disc light, is not working. We've got our new belt for the tape, installed that. I still think it's a bit small, but that's working for now. We need to check the speed on it. But in this episode, we're just going to have a look at these lights, probably change it to LED. So let's get this apart, see what we're doing. Right, so probably have to be using this front camera for most of this, maybe a bit of the overhead. Firstly, when we was checking this before, we've got our disc light isn't working. We've got all our other lights, both sides repeat, side B, side A, that's working. Our needle light is working, but we've got a light down here for the disc that isn't. So what we need to do, we need to get this front part off. I have already loosened it. Let's see if I can show you on the overhead camera first. Yeah, you can see there's some little clips there. So this basically, you need to lift the top of this off, which will then, you'll then be able to lever the front out. And then again, underneath there's a couple of clips, so if you get this off and lever it forward and give it a wiggle, it'll eventually pop out. Now I've already had this off, so it's loose, I didn't want to put it back on, but let's show you on the overhead camera here. So you can see the little dinks in there, hopefully the little holes, that's where the clips go into. It's very hard to get your nail under here and pull it out, but a little bit of a wiggle, that will come off, but be careful, you don't want to break it. Right, so here we go. This is where our light is plugged in for the disc. And it's just this little lamp here that goes through this rubber holder. And it's connected. It's connected straight into that little light. I've looked at the schematics for this. This is a 12 volt line, and there's no resistors in here, so this should have 12 volts going to it. So right, I'm going to cut this light off for now, and we'll check the voltage that is going to there. I mean, this light is knackered, it's gone, it's blown. So I'm just going to pop that off, and we can see, let's go to the overhead camera. You can see there, see the two little legs sticking out of there. So I think that kind of comes as one thing with the wires on it. Right, now let me just move the beast out of the way for a minute, and we'll have a look at some LED lights. Right, so this is the bottom of our door. Now I have seen other YouTube videos where they've got lights. I presume they're just on the bottom of this door, but obviously if you're underneath, you're gonna see that. Now I was thinking of putting these LED strips on there. I mean, these are just white lights, but you could get colour. The one I've seen have got nice sort of blue light shining down, so you could put a strip light on there. These are strips of 12 volts LEDs. So I was thinking of doing that. I mean, you could put them inside, but then you'd have to drill some holes through here, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to destroy the original look of it, really. So I was thinking of getting these lights and sticking them onto there, but then you've got to be able to run a cable from these connection points to inside. Let's try and explain this a bit better. Right, so here we've got our bench power supply, lab power supply, whatever you want to call it. Let's turn it on. Currently got this set to around 12 volts. And if I join my two connectors together, you can see it's overload, but it tells us we're on sort of about 15 milliamps there. Right, so I'll leave that on screen as well. back over to our little strips of LED. This came as one big roll. It was like some kitchen lights. It was about bloody 10-20 meters of the stuff. So it came on here. Yes, it come as one big roll of LEDs with like a driver that we could plug in, and then basically when you connect it up and put that on the ground, we've got 12 volts going into it and about 15 milliamps. Oh. And there we go, nice and bright. Hopefully you can see all that's lit up. But what you could also do with this is you can cut it down into strips of 3. It's basically each section is 12 volts, has a resistor on there already, so you could make these as long as you want. So now if we just do this one, same setting, 12 volts, 15 milliamps, you know, you can see it's all lights up nicely. Now where's my test one? Right, so we've got test one here. So this doesn't mean that these LEDs are 12 volts. I'm going to put 12 volts straight into this LED here and it will go poof. So let's connect that up. If I put 12 volts on this LED, super bright, and that has blown. That has blown. Hopefully you can still see the meter. I'll connect it back up again to show you. That gone, but you can probably see it now has a little black dot in there. Don't know if you can see a little black dot, but that's usually what happens when they're blown. On a good one, you haven't got a little black dot. Right, so if we now adjust our meter, we'll keep the milliamps the same, but we'll turn our voltage down to 3 volts. There we go, that's roughly 3 volts. So now we can inject our voltage just onto one LED. And there you go, we've got one nice bright LED. Not really dropping any voltage on it. And it's not really recording any amps. So it's using a tiny amount of amps. So the way that works is this resistor is dropping the 12 volts to supply each light. It's hard for me to explain. I don't really know what I'm talking about anyway. But if we take that one LED again, let's show you that is, oh, put it around the right way, might help. Right, so that's it with the power supply on 3 volts. But if we put this back to 12, we're going to put this back to 12 volts, and you saw the other one blow up before. But if we now use a 1k resistor, or was it a 2k? I can't remember now. It was already on ohms. Yeah, 996,000. So that's a 1k. That is a 1k resistor. So now, if we connect the 1k resistor up to our positive terminal, so the power is now going through the resistor, we can put our minus on this side. If we put our resistor on the other side, this is 12 volts going through it. There you go, it's now lit up and gone out again. I don't think 1k is enough. Oh, there. So you can see, by putting a resistor on there, you're reducing the current flow through the LED. It's the current that blows it up, I think. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on it. So what we could do for our light, because this is all I've got laying around. I have got red LEDs. I mean, you could put a normal LED. It will fit through the hole that's in the machine. So you could just get so what you could do, even though you know the LEDs are only sort of running at 2 or 3 volts, I've only got a red one. I can't really show you a white one. You know, our meter is still on 12 volts. Negative side is the short leg. If I was to put 12 volts into this, this would blow, like we showed you on the other one. But with our red LED, don't know whether you can see that lighting up. Zoom in. Put you up here. Stop rolling around. So our short leg is our minus. So you can see that lighting up. So even though that is a, you know, sort of a 3 volt, 3 volt LED, we're putting 12 volts into it, but because we're reducing the current with a 1K resistor, it's not blowing. So you could just get yourself a normal 3 volt LED, get yourself a 1K resistor, and that will work. I haven't got anything laying around, and these are nice and bright, so you can't unsolder these lights from here because they'll just melt. You can if you put hot air on the back, you can pop them off. For now, I'm just going to bodge this light together just so I can show you an LED light in there. So I'm going to cut this one off of here because it's the only one that's left working over this side. Now I could scrape back some of this white coating to get back to the copper. On either side. So I've forgotten what side's what, but I can see it's cut off there. So the plus is on the left. So that one down there is going to be the negative. So I'm just going to cut one of the legs off the resistor. Going to try and get a tiny bit of solder on here without melting the light. Which isn't going to stick yet, because I think this has got a big thick piece of coating on here. Yeah, you always think you're down to the copper and you're not. It's like a second layer. Right, let's try that again. Right, it's got a bit of solder on that side. Give the soldering iron a bit of a clean up. Now heat up this side, try and get some solder over here. And again. I think we've got a bit of solder on there now. And our resistor to this side. And the extra bit of wire I'm just going to put onto this side, so we've got something to connect our wires up to. Now let's make sure I haven't blown the LED up with heat. So now we'll apply our power back to this. And there we go, a nice bright light. So that's the 12 volts going into that. And that's nice and bright. Right, so this is our connector for our light. I want to leave that on there because I will get a proper LED and change this. But like I say, that's a red one I had there, and it will fit nicely. Oh, will fit nicely into that hole. So you could just get yourself a plain LED, stick it down through that hole with a resistor on it, and you'll be good to go. So just slide that rubber bit up out of the way. Just trim the edges of here. It's a very fine bit of wire in there. Right, I've just plugged it in and turned it on. Just want to find out what the polarity are of these wires, if any. Schematics show it's 12 volts going through here. So let's just check. Right, so that's showing 8 volts coming through here. So yeah, so that one down there is our positive. So if I go back this way, got minus 8 volts. So this side is our negative sticking up here. Okay, let's turn it off for a minute and unplug it. Right, so I'm just going to connect this bottom wire up to there. I'm going to try and get this other wire onto this one. Plug it in, turn it on, and we have our little light. Now there is a chance these can touch and short out on each other, but I'm not going to leave it like this. I'm going to get a proper LED and change it. So it's going to look more original than having LED strips like stuck under here, or they'll be stuck under there. But if you wanted to do it that way, you could do it that way. You've just then got to get your wires from here and, you know, under and onto these two. You know, for testing purposes, this is okay at the minute. You know, it gives you an idea about LEDs. That would probably actually slide in there without touching. You know, that's not going to touch because of the thickness of the wires and the resistors in the way. But shall we just see what it looks like? Let's just poke that down through the hole. Right, with a bit of faffing about, we've got it back together now. We've just got that in its hole. Let's see what it looks like. Lights are on. It's not massively bright, but that's probably good enough actually. Let's see what it looks like with a regular one in there. That doesn't look too bad really if you had that front cover on. I don't think that looked too bad with just that little bit of light shining up through there. It's a bit hard to see it because it's a bit bright in this room. Right, that is it. I think I'm going to leave it there actually. I'm going to get a proper LED for in here, but that's just to show you for now what it looks like with the one LED. I could put the 3 strips on here, but I want to leave this machine original as possible. Whoever buys this machine can mod it themselves if they want to do it, because all you have to do is extend these wires through that hole and then you can just connect them up under here if you wanted to do it that way. But that's for its new owner when it gets one eventually, hopefully. Next thing we're going to look at in the next video, I'm going to swap over the cartridges from the front, from the back to the front, front to the back, because the sound level on our back cartridge is really low. But that's it for today on this one. You see the light shining hopefully on my finger. We'll get a proper LED in there, but it's just an explanation how to show you that you can put like just your normal 3-volt LED in there. Just make sure you get a resistor on there, and that'll work fine. But I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope it gave you a little bit of information, even though I don't quite understand it myself. Don't follow me, I'm no expert, but that's what I've watched online, and that's how you put an LED in. Thanks for watching. Give us a like, give us a comment, give us a subscribe, share the video to all your friends, and hopefully I shall see you in the next one.